What is gravy, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I finally did it. Almost 4 months after the game released, I have finished Kena Bridge of Spirits. Honestly, I don't know why I've put it off for so long, to be honest. I mean, ever since the first trailer, my anticipation's just been through the ceiling. And how could it not be? I mean, look at these little guys. How could I not want to play this? But we're here to talk about trophies, not listen to me gush over how Pixar it all is. Let's get into it. Okay, so right off the bat, I love this trophy list. It has a little bit of everything without going overboard, and with one notable exception that we'll get to, none of it's really that hard. All it wants for you to do is to explore. Explore and enjoy everything that the game has to show you. And in my opinion, that's what trophies should do. I mean, you get half the trophies just for finishing the story. And I'm not going to go into the story trophies just because I don't want to ruin this for anybody. But the other half are split between combat, collectibles, and 1 or 2 miscellaneous ones. So let's take it step by step. While you are able to free roam after the story, it's worth keeping your eye on these combat trophies. Mainly because enemies in the world won't respawn once you've defeated them, so technically these are all missable. However, the chances are you'll get them all naturally anyway. I do recommend trying to get the 2 triple trophies. These require you to defeat 3 enemies with a single move, and it can be a bit tricky to set up, especially on the higher difficulties. As well, I'd focus on trying to get the Return to Sender trophy. This is because mage enemies, the absolute bane of my existence by the way, aren't that common. There is at least 1 combat challenge that will spawn a mage, so it's quite easy to just repeat that one over and over again until you get the trophy, and I'd recommend doing that just to get it out of the way. Now, did someone say collectibles? Okay, yes, Kena definitely has a lot of collectibles, I can't lie. These range from chests that spawn combat encounters to hats you can get for your little rock friends. It's like the messenger hats in Bloodborne, except less nightmare fuel. The saving grace is most of them are pretty easy to find. I went through without a guide for my first playthrough, and I managed to get most of them just by making sure I explored. And that's something that you'll want to do in this game because it's just that pretty. You can't not explore it. Plus, the cleanup in the game's actually pretty simple. It keeps track of areas and all the collectibles you have for those areas. There's plenty of maps you can find online, guides that'll talk you through it. It is very straightforward, but like I said, I'd go through first without a guide. Just enjoy it, and you'll find most of them anyway, I promise. On top of that, the collectibles in Kena actually have purpose. Meditation spots to increase your max health, clearing flower shrines that gives you karma, which you then can spend on abilities, and finding the rot themselves, which allows you to use more abilities in combat. So even on subsequent playthroughs, for example, your master playthrough, it makes sense to actually go for these collectibles, except for the cursed chests. They'll just hurt. The only other trophies in the game are for unlocking all of Kena's abilities, for taking a photo in photo mode, which trust me, you will want to do. I've never used photo mode so much in my life as I have in this game. It's just so much fun. And of course, then there's the big one. Yes, I am of course talking about Master Spirit Guide. This one trophy is the reason PSNProfiles has this game at a 7 out of 10, and is likely the stopping point for most people, and I completely get it. I went through initially playing on hard because I knew that I was going to eventually go onto master difficulty, and this definitely helped, but I still almost packed it in several times, honestly. I mean, at the start of the game, you can get taken out in as little as 3 hits. 3 hits. This is the first combat encounter in the game, and all it takes is missing 1 parry and down to almost dead. On top of this, your courage, which is the little circles at the bottom that allows you to use your special abilities or heal, can actually go down on this difficulty if you take damage. Yes, you heard me right. Your ability to heal in this game can be taken away by getting hit. Explain that one. Now, things do get a bit easier in the game once you get the bow, because it allows you to put some distance between you and enemies, although most enemies in the game still have ranged attacks, so avoiding damage is the key. I know that sounds obvious, but is very, very important. And this is where I have to mention my only real issue with the game. So many of the encounters rely on you being outnumbered, and it makes things quite frustrating at the start. There's one specific fight near the beginning where you're fighting one large enemy surrounded by a bunch of smaller enemies, and in my experience these small enemies just keep respawning. They don't stop until the large enemy is gone, and on master difficulty, trying to keep your eye on all of these enemies so you don't get hit becomes incredibly stressful very quickly. There are very few points in this game where you are one-on-one with someone. This isn't a deal breaker, however, it's just something I hadn't noticed or really given much thought to on my first run. Now, can't talk about this trophy without talking about exploits, can we? When the game first came out, there was a trick that basically skipped master difficulty completely. This is patched now, and unless you can revert the game back to an earlier stage, I really don't think it's possible to get any more. That's not to say there aren't still things in the game to help you. For example, I was watching a speedrun of this game online, and one of the tricks the runner used was to get the dash ability right at the start. So for this video I decided to go and give it a try, and it is actually possible. It takes a few tries, I'll be honest. It's not the most consistent of things, but it is possible, and if you do this, it gives you a really, really useful ability at the start, which could definitely help you in that early stage. Don't get me wrong, you'll still die a lot, it's just inevitable at this point, but this proves that there are things you can do to make life a bit easier for yourself. One thing I would say is don't use this skip on your first playthrough. 1, you don't need it. 2, it kind of spoils some of the game for you, and that is definitely something you don't want. While there is certainly a steep road ahead of you if you go for this platinum, it's also such an enjoyable game that I'd argue it's worth pushing through the difficulty and experiencing everything that Kena Bridge of Spirits has to offer. Even after spending almost 40 hours playing this game, I still enjoy just jumping in and running around in the little world that Ember Lab made. So personally, I'd say go for it. Even if you get to master difficulty and decide it's too much, getting the rest of the trophies means that you've experienced this gem of a game to the full. And that, to me, is worth it. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Let me know down below if you have this platinum or if you're put off by master difficulty. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, if you enjoyed, please do hit that like button, it helps me out a ton. And subscribe if you're new so you can stay up to date with everything here on the channel. And I shall catch you all next time.